Single dad gave a lift to a woman with a torn dress. She was the runaway bride of a billionaire. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness happens on an ordinary road, at an ordinary moment, and ends up changing lives forever. This story begins on a quiet highway, with a single dad who thought he was just doing a good deed for a stranger. He had no idea that one simple decision, to stop his car, would pull him into a story of heartbreak, courage, and unexpected grace. What if the person you help for just 5 minutes turns out to be someone running from a life of gold cages and silent suffering? And what if your kindness becomes the first safe place they've had in years? Before we begin, if you enjoy real, emotional stories that remind us of the power of kindness, please subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. You're watching Heartfelt Moments, where simple human goodness takes center stage. Mark Davis was a single dad living just outside of Columbus, Ohio. He was 38, worked as a delivery driver, and raised his 8-year-old son, Ethan, on his own since his wife passed away 4 years earlier. Life wasn't easy, but Mark carried on with quiet strength. His days were long, his bills were tight, and his heart still carried grief, but he believed in one thing deeply: be kind whenever you can, because you never know what someone is carrying. That evening, Mark had just finished his last delivery. The sky was dim, painted in soft gray and pale blue, and a light breeze rolled across the road. As he drove down a less traveled highway, he noticed something unusual up ahead. A woman was standing near the shoulder, her arms wrapped around herself, her head down. Mark slowed the car. She was barefoot. Her dress was torn along the side, stained with dirt, and her hair looked like it had been pulled loose in a rush. She looked frightened, exhausted, and completely out of place. Mark hesitated for a second. As a single father, he was careful. But then he thought of Ethan. He thought of the world he wanted his son to grow up in. He pulled over. "Hey," Mark said gently through the open window. "Are you okay?" The woman looked up, startled. Her eyes were red from crying, but they were sharp and alert. She shook her head slowly. I just need to get away," she whispered. Mark stepped out of the car, keeping a respectful distance. "You can sit in the car if you want. I can take you to the nearest town or gas station." She hesitated, then nodded, her hands shaking as she opened the door. She sat in the passenger seat, clutching the torn fabric of her dress like it was the only thing holding her together. As they drove, silence filled the car. Mark didn't push. After a few miles, she spoke. "My name is Claire." "I'm Mark," he said. "And I've got a kid at home who'd be mad if I didn't help someone who needed it." That made her smile, just a little. Claire explained in pieces. She had been at a wedding. Her wedding. It was supposed to be perfect. The dress, the venue, the guests, all flawless. But something inside her had broken. "I couldn't breathe," she said, staring out the window. "Everyone kept telling me how lucky I was. How I was marrying into everything anyone could want." Mark nodded. "But you didn't feel lucky." She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I felt trapped." She didn't say much more, and Mark didn't ask. He stopped at a small diner he knew was still open and offered to buy her food. She looked embarrassed but grateful. Inside, under warm lights and the smell of coffee, she looked a little more human again. She borrowed Mark's hoodie to cover the torn dress. When she held the mug of hot tea, her hands finally stopped shaking. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You didn't have to stop." Mark shrugged. "Someone once stopped for me when my car broke down and my son was sick in the back seat." Kindness has a way of coming back around. After the diner, Mark offered to drop her at a motel nearby. As they drove, her phone buzzed nonstop. She turned it off without looking. "I don't want to be found," she said. Mark respected that. He didn't ask who she was running from. The next morning, Mark's life returned to normal. School drop-offs. Work. Dinner with Ethan. The memory of Claire stayed with him, but he assumed that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, Mark received a letter. It was handwritten. Thick paper. No return address. Inside was a simple note. Dear Mark. You gave me something priceless the night I met you, safety without conditions. I was running from a wedding the world would have envied. I am the daughter of a billionaire, and the bride of a man chosen more for headlines than love. I left everything behind that night because of you. Thank you for reminding me that kindness doesn't need wealth to be powerful. Enclosed was a check. Mark's hands shook when he saw the number. It was more money than he had made in years. He sat at the kitchen table in silence. Then he folded the letter carefully. Mark didn't buy fancy things. He paid off debts. He started a college fund for Ethan. He fixed his old car. And with the rest, he quietly donated to local shelters, food banks, and single-parent support programs. Months later, Mark saw a news story. A billionaire's daughter had started a foundation focused on helping people escape forced or loveless marriages. In the interview, she spoke about how a stranger's kindness had saved her. Mark smiled and turned off the TV. He never reached out. He didn't need credit. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stop your car, open your door, and treat a stranger like they matter. And maybe, just maybe, that kindness will ripple farther than you could ever imagine. So if you're ever given the chance to help, take it. You never know whose life you might change, or how your small act of kindness could become someone else's turning point.